Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
I just want to take 1 or 2 minutes and explain to you what this series is and which way we are heading. And then my colleague Bakar will take up and chair today's session and introduce you the topic and the speakers. This is, I don't know, talk number 15 or 18? 15. 15. Since last August or September, we are trying to do a talk every few weeks, typically every other week, on the transboundary issue. And transboundary waters are important for Pakistan because Pakistan gets most of its water from its neighbors. Some we do in large quantities, and some we do in minuscule quantities, such as from Iran. And some are very strong water neighbors upstream in upper Indus Basin, such as China. And with Afghanistan, we probably get between 12 and 18-20% of our water, depending which year we are talking about, which is a fairly high percentage for water security. 12 to 18%? 12 to 18%, depending which source you wish to quote. Our objective is to deepen our understanding about the transboundary waters and different sensitivities, economic, political, social, and various bearings it had on walks of life, such as meeting sustainable development goals, such as managing heavier snow melt now because of climate change in upper regions, in Afghanistan as well as other parts, such as frequent flooding or flash flooding as we have experienced in recent years. And then also looking at how the water management policies of different countries can have a bearing on the water management. Through benefit sharing, construction of reservoirs, or to generate for hydropower, or whatever sources. These are complex issues. They have a lot of sensitivity and a lot of competing demand on the water resource that is getting scarce. So that's the key motivation of this series. In the process, we are strengthening our own understanding, hopefully our competence on water issues as well. Each one of these talks is summed up in one pager that is like here. You can pick your copy if you're interested. Otherwise, I hope it is on our website also. You can see it in a leisurely fashion. Or you can leave your business card. I'll have it. My colleagues will send it to you. So that it is not, as we call it, Guftan, Shistan, Rakhastan. We learn from each other and document. Going forward, we are hoping to bring first 20 speakers together sometime in May. There is the process of fundraising. All these write-ups that you see, we hope to convert them into a working paper that will be presented to the speakers to see if we have organized the knowledge in different categories. The speakers may have come with specific specializations, and we'll try to give it a structure. And based on that feedback, we aspire to do three things. One is that we'll revise that working paper and present it to a larger audience in September. I think on the 17th of September. So that it's validated by a larger audience. Some of those themes that will be identified in the May meeting by the first speaker, we hope to commission a few more working papers on the subject. We are aspiring 6 such papers, and those papers we hope will be completed by this time next year. First 3 of those papers in the series, and 6 more are in the pipeline, I hope, are complete, and they are available either on our website or in printed shape if you are interested. So this is a very modest contribution. We are trying to make and create a better understanding of the top-down issues. So I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you for your support and encouragement. We want to invite you to our next talk also. When is that?
18th.
And who is the speaker?
Zilna has to confirm yet. To get in touch with her, but 18th is the.
Okay, 18th is the next. So the ongoing series will be 18th April. Theme of the talk. Next one.
The speaker still has to confirm it with me, but I will share
और
it.
उसके बाद भी कौन सी है? You have couple of speakers lined up के नहीं है?
We have a couple of speakers, but only dates.
Sure. Okay. We'll keep you informed.
Yes, please.
Please leave your email address so that you are part of our distribution list. Now with this I want to request my colleague Waqar. Waqar Ahmed is a CEO of Star Hydro, a company that deals with bulk water. I made substantial investments in this country, and just very recently, very successfully commissioned a mega project by Pakistan and Afghanistan. He has very graciously agreed to chair today, and then he has to leave, and then we'll see how long he can stay.
Actually, it's indeed a privilege. Today we have a very distinguished speaker on a topic which is gaining traction in Pakistan. Inland navigation. We will talk about inland navigation today. I've just come across that the Punjab government has already set up an inland navigation authority. I'm not aware of how much work it has done or how much whether it has progressed in its objectives. But inland navigation has been, let's say, a kind of activity which has brought societies together over large spans of history. From China to US, the inland navigation is a very, very common phenomenon. From Pakistani perspective, Indus Basin can be a source of social cohesion if this inland navigation can become a part of the economic activity. Today, Dr. Saab is going to talk mostly from the Kabul River perspective, especially in inland navigation between Pakistan and Afghanistan, but also he will be touching the Indus River itself as well. I just would like to take a few seconds to introduce Dr. Hassan. Dr. Hassan Abbas holds a PhD in hydrology and water resources from Michigan State University. He has a very diverse experience in different countries. He has worked on issues in relation to water source management in deserts or wetlands or even from the glacial aspects as well. In Pakistan, he is primarily focusing his activities on integrated water economy models, combining irrigation efficiency, environmental regeneration, intrinsic value of water, and inland navigation in the industry. Dr. Saab, it's a pleasure to welcome you here. Dr. Saab has very kindly allowed that if there is really a pressing question, you can ask anytime during the discussion, or if you can hold it till the end. So he's available there. And following this discussion, we would request a little bit more of your time to share with us over a cup of tea or coffee. Dr. Saab.
Thank you very much, Professor, for the introduction, and I'm extremely grateful to lead Pakistan and especially Dr. Shesa for giving me a chance to come here and speak to all the brilliant minds here and share a few things and learn a few things. Before I start off with my formal presentation, I would just like to introduce my team here. This is Hassan Abbas. He's a specialist in hydroinformatics. Next to him is Sharia Shafiq. He is an expert in inland navigation. And next to Shafiq is Wajir Hassan. He is expert in project modeling. So without further ado, I would just jump on to the topic, which is our inland navigation. Those are the names of our team. I will start with the history of inland navigation in Indus and its tributaries, starting with the earliest records of serious traveling across the river on a long distance is from Alexander Maston also known as Alexander the Great. 326 BC, he sailed his ships from river Jhelum all the way down to the ocean. 1638 was Henry Bamford. He traveled from Lahore to Thatta in a flat bottom boat. Then Alexander Hamilton, he also traveled various reaches of the Indus, and he concluded in his travels that Indus is navigable all the way from ocean to Kashmir. Then British became a little bit more serious about navigation activities, and they authorized a mission to survey Indus with respect to navigation. And Alexander Bernays was a young man who was assigned the task. He started from Sindh, went all the way to various tributaries of Indus and all the way to Afghanistan. Then in the mid-80s, 1800s, Indus Flotilla Company was made, and there were quite a significant navigational activities going on. And in 1920, there was a pact signed between British and Afghanistan, in which one of the clauses was that British would use Kabul River for navigation, and Afghans agreed to it. Historically, in other parts of the world, Erie Canal is a very interesting case in point. This canal was conceived by somebody whose surname was some Clinton. He was a friend of George Washington, the first president of US. And this guy, when he proposed that we can make a canal connecting Hudson River to Lake Erie and connect Midwest with the port of New York, George Washington actually laughed at him, and he said, I can see such a canal coming in next 200 years or so, and after we complete such a canal, America would be bankrupt. Well, Clinton was a hard taskmaster. He did not back off from his idea, but he knew that nobody is going to support him. And down the road, he became governor of New York. When he became governor of New York, he took the project with his own resources. He did not have a single engineer to work on the project. He organized surveyors and basically laborers and started digging the ditch. In America, people started laughing at him. They said Clinton's ditch. Then a team from Europe, they visited US, and then that was the time when Europe was the main center of knowledge. So those were the experts from Europe who called this project Clinton's folly. But Clinton kept doing it. And he managed to complete the canal starting from 1817. And in 1822, I think, that was the time he completed the canal. And then that was the time when New York got access, the navigational access to the Midwest. Well, before this, Louisiana and New Orleans, those were the hub of economic activities. All the European ships were sailing from Europe down to Louisiana. It was like 300 nautical miles more than if they anchor at New York. But then they did not have a direct connection from New York to Midwest. The roads were not very good, and there was a mountain range, Appalachian Mountains, they had to cross that. But down in Louisiana, they had Mississippi River, and from Mississippi there was inland navigation all the way to Midwest. So that was the hub of economy, and this part, New Orleans, was the financial and commercial capital of the New World. And after the establishment of Erie Canal, it was only a matter of time that New York started getting advantage because of its closer proximity to Europe. And then it was a few decades down the road that New York overtook New Orleans as the financial center, not just of the USA, but of the world. So Erie Canal is said to have transformed the economy of the US, and because it was linking so many different states, it is said to have kept the Union intact during the times of Civil War. So not only there was a trade and commerce advantage that this canal provided, there was also the social and political impacts of keeping America united. And there's something very interesting about Erie Canal. Guess what was the size of this canal? It was 40 feet wide, a little more than this room, and 4 feet deep. And that was enough to let the ships sail. Grand Canal of China, next one line, has also a very interesting history. This is the oldest inland navigation canal in the world, built 2,500 years ago. And it connected Yellow River and Yangtze River. And basically, this was the connection between north and south of China. And historians also call this canal as one major factor that kept the whole land of China intact. Because Russia is big because there is nothing in Russia. It's all empty, barren, and hostile environment. But China, and like in Europe, if you see, there are so many countries. A parallel civilization in China remained as one country, and the credit goes to this Grand Canal. Then E.C. Maud had a very nice article in a UNESCO publication called Free Flow, and in which they actually said that HTS rivers have inadequate transboundary cooperation compared to Danube, Rhine, Mekong, and Nile. Those are the exact words from this publication. And there's one thing which is common in all those, and we have that thing missing, is transboundary navigation. So all those rivers, which they identified as better in transboundary cooperation, they have that element of inland navigation that we don't. Then here's a little bit more about history. Would you please take over from here?
Sure. Okay, let's start from the history of inland navigation in Indus. A brief account of history has been given by Dr. During his previous talk. In 1831, this survey of Indus rivers was carried out by a surveyor from the British Army named as Alexander Bernice. He surveyed the whole Indus starting from Sindh and went all the way up to Kabul through the main tributary of Indus, and he discovered that Indus was quite navigable. He called Indus as Mississippi and Hudson of subcontinent. So this was the potential of navigation seen by Bernice in that region. In 1835, first boat named Indus sailed in the Indus River. This first boat was also named as Indus. In 1836, Wood, Carles, Leach and Heddle, these were 4 British engineers, they were sent by the British government to test the earlier assertions that were made by the Alexander Bernice survey of Indus. So basically, the assumptions made by Alexander Bernice, they were quite optimistic. He called Indus as the Mississippi and Hudson of subcontinent. But these 4 British scientists, the engineers, when they surveyed the Indus, they found out that it was not as easy to navigate as he published in his report, Alexander Bernice. They found out that the Indus had quite a shifting nature in its main reach, and the biggest problem they accounted for was the shallow and marshy delta of Indus, which was the biggest hurdle of connecting Indus with the Arabian Sea. Moving upwards, though 2 more ships started sailing in Indus in 1843. These were named as Planet and Satellite. They were sailed as a part of British military operation in order to conquest in their conquest of the Sindh province. Moving upwards in history, 1852, there was a fortnightly postal service that was started between Karachi and Multan. And this fortnightly postal mail service was kept running through ships which sailed from Karachi all the way up to Multan. The next thing is, in 1856, there was another company which was called Oriental Inland Steam Company.
When they were doing this in 1850, and there was no sucker or Gandhu?
No, they were not. They were not present at that time. Yes, there were no barrages that time. So in 1856, Oriental Inland Steam Company was established. This company basically took subsidy from the British government, and they planned on running steam barge trains on Indus. In 1858, this company started doing its business, running its trains. But in 1859, a competitor was established by the name of Indus Flotilla in 1859. Its main function was to handle the cargo that was running between Karachi and Multan. In 1859, another company similar to Indus Flotilla was named as Indus Steam Flotilla. And this was specifically aimed at connecting the railway track which was being built from Karachi to Kotri at that time. So it was aimed at connecting that railway track to all the ports up in the Indus, especially at Attock and at Multan. In 1861, the railway track between Karachi and Kotri was completed. Initially, the ships from the Arabian Sea landed at the port of Karachi. The cargo was loaded on small boats and then it was transported to a small port downstream of Kotri that was named as Chirk at that time. It was one of the most modern river navigation terminals of that time. River navigation terminal. So, but that navigation was quite difficult, and this railway track provided about 250 odd less kilometers of distance when the cargo was transported from Karachi to Kotri on this railway track. So in 1861, when this railway track was completed, Indus Flotilla, it started going all the way up to Multan. It reached a city of which is called Makhad, that is just downstream of Attock. So they started providing their services all the way up to Multan. In 1865, the railway line between Lahore, Multan, Amritsar and Delhi, it was completed. Previously, the cargo which was unloaded at Karachi port was taken by railway up to Kotri and then was taken by boats up to Multan, and then from Multan it was again loaded on the railway lines and taken from Multan to Amritsar and from Amritsar to Delhi. So with the completion of this connection from Lahore to Delhi, the cargo started shifting from the Indus Flotilla onto the railway lines. Consequently, in 1870, the Indus Flotilla Company, it was amalgamated with the railways and it was named as Railway Flotilla. Owing to the development of all of these railway lines, the usability of Indus Flotilla demised. The reason for that was that the existing reach of this company was from Kotri up to Multan, and this was about an odd 950 kilometers of distance, but it would take 40 days for steamboats to travel from Kotri all the way up to Multan. So they decided to shift that transport of cargo from Indus Flotilla onto the railway tracks.
Right. So, as we see that there had been a lot of navigation until late 1870s on Indus, and then there came a downfall in this one. The British subcontinent was hit twice by famines. Famines of 1930s were very famous, and then followed by famines of 1870s. And British were actually doing this canal irrigation system. They had established some on the Ganges River Basin, but not on the Indus. And this famine of 1876-77, it triggered widespread need for food security. And that was the time that around 1879, they modified the canal headworks built by the Mughals on Madhupur. They had built the canal from Madhupur, that was an inundation canal which would bring water to Lahore. That water which is coming in Shalimar Garden and stuff, that was coming from that canal. It was built by Mughals in 1638. Shah Jahan built that canal. And then British modified that canal network and converted it into an irrigation, basically canal command system, which was then followed elsewhere. I will. There was an important thing, which is 1898. It was the British Congress of Science, in which what was his name? William Cook. William Cook was a scientist. He presented a paper which was named Wheat Problem, and he, in his paper, concluded that if there are no serious interventions in grain production in the British Empire, which was not just subcontinent but spread all around the world, that there would be serious food shortages by 1930s. So he is making a prediction 30 years in future that there will be serious food shortages. Now, British had already seen two famines in India, which was, especially the famine of 1830s, was quite problematic. So many people actually died of starvation in that famine, followed by one in the 1870s and some reaction of the British. And then this paper presented at the end of the century, and then the British are convinced that, well, these rivers have a lot of irrigation potential, so let's go on building irrigation wells. So here, what we had was Sakhar barrage. There were other barrages which are not now in India, which are part of Indus Basin. They are not listed here, but these are the ones which were in Calabar, within Pakistan during the times of British. So Sakhar barrage was the largest in Pakistan, and when it was built, it was the largest barrage of its kind in the world. 7 canals taking off from Sakhar barrage, completed in 1932. Then Gudu and Kotri barrages were conceived in the 1940s, but because of the World War and other things going on, the work did not progress on those. Similarly, Calabar barrage was completed by 1942, but the canals which were planned with this barrage were not built in 1942. So the barrage was there, but no canals. And then 1947, we became India. Now, soon after independence, this water dispute emerged between India and Pakistan. And why I have brought this thing into this presentation is because there are some connections of transboundary negotiations which started from there, and now we are kind of on a smaller scale, but in kind of a similar situation with Afghanistan and transboundary things. So let's see how it moved. 18 December 1947, few months after creation of Pakistan, India and Pakistan signed a standstill agreement. So that standstill agreement was that the way water is being run from the rivers from India into Pakistan will stay as such. But the trick was that the standstill agreement's date was the expiry date of the agreement was 31st of March 1948. And probably people on the Pakistani side did not understand why India wanted to sign that agreement. Because there was an arbitral tribunal which was made soon after partition, and that arbitral tribunal was to give decisions on all the disputes along the boundary between the two countries. And the tribunal was also supposed to close on 31st March. So if you have a standstill agreement that there would be no change in water the way it is running, then that's not a dispute and that cannot be brought to the tribunal. And when that cannot be brought to the tribunal is not going to make any decision on it. And the day the tribunal was closed, on the 31st March, this standstill agreement expired, and on 1st of April, the very next day, they closed all the canals that they could close. So this is how the game started. And then this Bhakra Dam, it was conceived in the times of British, but they never undertook the project. Indians took it seriously and they wanted to shut down Satluj. Actually, when British conceived Satluj, this dam on Satluj, this Bhakra Dam, it's a very big dam, about the size of the Vela Dam in terms of storage, and it's one very big, huge concrete structure that completely blocks Satluj River. When British talked of this thing, it was Sindh which objected it. Sindh said that it would stop the flow of silt into the delta and predicted erosion of the delta through sea waves because there is no more silt coming in to balance that erosion. And the British did not build it. But
Which year was this? Sorry?
this was Bhakra Dam.
Which year? Which year?
I don't exactly know, but it was, I think, somewhere in the 20s. But you must check this. Somewhere in the 20s, they conceived this dam. Teen Dam and this Teen Dam on Ravi and this dam and Pung Dam. All these three dams were conceived in the times of British, but not the way they were built later on by Indians. So Sindh objected to it, and it was then that the British proposed that, okay, if we will build these dams, we will build two upper and lower Sindh barrages, which then came out to be Gudu Barrage and Kotri Barrage, upstream and downstream of Sakhar Barrage. So that is how the British were thinking. But when the countries got divided, India said we are going for this Bhakra Dam. Pakistan objected, but then this canal closure came in, and then India went on a binge of constructing one diversion structure after the other and diverting all the waters of the eastern three rivers that were flowing into Pakistan. Pakistan protested, and soon after the closure of canals on 1st April, as early as May of the same year, like about 6 to 7 weeks later, Pakistan and India signed an agreement which was called the Dominion Accord, according to which India would supply water to Pakistan, but Pakistan will pay for it. So, but again, there was an expiry date on Dominion Accord, and as soon as the date came, again India closed all the water coming into Pakistan. Pakistan protested and they wanted to go to the international court. But at that point in time, India said, okay, we are not going to international court, we will maintain the flows as per Dominion Accord. And then World Bank came. And then the story, we all know it, how it happened, and by 1960s, the treaty was signed. But there's something important that after going through all these events, so you see all these things which were being built, 1951, a structure comes up, 1951, another structure comes up, another 51, then World Bank moves in 1951. Lilienthal was a very interesting person. He was the one who actually said to have the Indus Water Treaty is his brainchild. This is what people say. Because Lilienthal visited India and Pakistan during this dispute. And he wrote a few papers in Collier magazine of USA. And he proposed a few so-called solutions to the problems of the Indus Basin. And one of his assertions was that a lot of water in the Indus River Basin is wasting into the sea. And there should be a unified system between the two countries to stop this water and use it for beneficial purposes, according to his definition of beneficial purposes. And according to his definition of wastage. The water was being wasted and was to be used for the beneficial purposes. However, Lilienthal's plan that he put forward was not welcomed by India and Pakistan because his initial plan was an integrated kind of a plan in which the both countries would be kind of sharing the different projects and their water diversion and stuff. Then it was Eugene, the president of World Bank. He was invited to actually look into it as a very lucrative business proposal. And he liked it. And he wrote letters to the prime ministers and presidents of India and Pakistan. And he said that, okay, we will help you out, solve this problem. We will build this one here, this one there. And then finally in 1952, the two countries agreed for the first time to come on the tables. And then the bank asked them that, okay, bring your own proposals. And the first proposal, which was presented in I think October of 1953, that proposal was presented. The first proposal was presented by India and Pakistan. There were two separate proposals. The highlights of the proposal from Pakistan was that India should use up to 30% waters of the eastern rivers, and the prior use which Pakistan is already taking, like the canal that had worked, that prior use or prior appropriation should be maintained. And Pakistan allowed that up to 7% of water of the western rivers India may be able to use. India, on the other hand, in her proposal said 100% water of the western rivers, of the eastern rivers, and 7% water from the western rivers, and also a diversion canal from through a tunnel from Chenab into India. Obviously, both countries, they had very different proposals, and then the World Bank, they started mediating. And at the end, when the treaty was signed, there were so many things in between, but when the treaty was signed, India got all three rivers, Pakistan got only western rivers. India was allowed to have 7% waters from the western rivers. The only thing India did not get was the canal through a tunnel from Chenab, linking Ravi. That was the only thing which India did not get. And Pakistan's proposal was almost, I would say, almost rejected. So they call it a treaty, but what we see that all these things which are part of the treaty, they were done even before the treaty. Everything was in place. All the structures required to completely stop three eastern rivers were already in place when the treaty was signed. The only two structures which were built, which were planned earlier and built later, were Pong Dam and Theen Dam. Pong Dam started soon after the treaty in 62, and I think it was completed somewhere in the early 70s. And then Theen Dam was started in the 70s and was completed in 1992. And after 1992, Ravi went dry. Those who are old enough to remember pre-1992 GT Road Bridge entering into Lahore, there were water. There was a bela and there was a picnic spot and stuff like that, and boats and stuff, and now all you see is sewage water under that bridge. So that stopped coming after 1992. So this is how the history of the development of Indus Basin went on. And after 1960, there were so many other developments in which there were diversion canals and some barrages in Pakistan and construction of one dam on Kabul River, which was Warsak Dam. Now, Warsak was not part of Indus Basin Treaty. It was an outcome of Colombo Plan, in which Commonwealth countries, they joined together to help out the emerging economies of the third world. And one of those projects came to Pakistan and in the Kabul River Basin, and this Warsak Dam on Kabul River is the outcome of that. So this was the brief history of inland navigation in the Indus, and some references to other parts of the world, and then all the development works which took place in the Indus Basin. Now, how inland navigation looks in some other parts of the world. This is Sava River down there. It's a tributary of Danube. This picture is taken in Belgrade. It's a river about twice the size of Kabul River. Kabul River is about 15 BCM annual flow. This river is about 30 BCM of annual flow. MAF of annual flow. And those are the river people. If you go in the streets of those buildings, you find happy, laughing folks. You know, this is inland navigation in Indus today. This is what our boats look like. Those dried creeks, salty water, and those are the people living in the towns next door. Now, Indus is about 4 to 5 times bigger than Sava River. We have more water flowing in that river. But this is the outcome of all the works that we have done. Now, this picture is very interesting actually. This place is Keti Bandar. Keti Bandar was a port city in the times of Talpoors and the British. And Keti Bandar was a port where 625 odd shipping companies had registered ships coming from Europe and other parts of the world, anchoring here and doing trade. And Keti Bandar at that time was a thriving center of commerce on the ports of Sindh, and it was in those heydays that once it gave loan to the municipality of Karachi for some development works. So that was the status of Keti Bandar. Today this is Keti Bandar. So definitely there are some impacts of those works. Now let me clear one thing from the very outset. Now I don't want to step on somebody's toes that we did something wrong, or I don't want to blame anyone for all these wrongdoings. The thing is, when we were building all those barrages and rivers and signing all those treaties and stuff, we were doing it in good faith, with the available knowledge at hand and with the tools available with us. Today, our knowledge base has multiplied several orders of magnitude, and our tools and our understanding have multiplied again several orders of magnitude. Here, I just give an example of a TV which was built in the 1960s, what it looked like. You had to wait about a few minutes before a small blip will come on its screen and then picture would pop up in black and white. And we would say, hey, we are technologically advanced. But look at today's smart TVs. They take you around the world with the click of a few buttons on the remote. Not that people in the 60s were stupid and they made a stupid thing. It's only because of the difference of knowledge base between now and then. So this is the outcome of the knowledge base and the lack of understanding that has resulted into these things. And here I would now talk about how navigation is being conducted today. How we are managing the rivers with navigation today. I mean, when Indus was being used for navigation, all these rivers, Mississippi, Grand Canal, Lily Canal, they were in place. They were also being used for navigation. And then we discuss some of these things, and then we will discuss what our potential is in respect of navigation when we talk about Kabul and Indus, say Arabian Sea to Calabar, then Calabar to Attock, and then Attock to Jalalabad. Jalalabad is the first city in Afghanistan after crossing the border upstream of Washington. So here I would this is just an example of the Still Canal. This is in Toulouse, France. This is Garonne River is actually connecting the inner parts of the city through a still canal, and those still canals are actually operated by locking gates and stuff. So the reason I'm showing these pictures is that I want to highlight that the technology to do these things is already there. I mean, more than 100 years ago, people had solutions to navigate through raging rivers, bringing a boat right into the city center, technology of locking gates and stuff. All those things are there, and those things are operational. Now, navigation is one aspect of river economy or river basin management. But when we talk of a basin management, like we're talking about benefit sharing on Kabul River Basin, so we should not be narrowing ourselves on one aspect that, okay, this is navigation and navigation will solve all the problems, that navigation is the only thing we need. We have looked in an integrated fashion. And again, when I talk about knowledge base and modern trends, this is what the contemporary thinking on water management is like. This is a book called Free Flow. The name says it all, Free Flow. And this is a publication of UNESCO. So UNESCO is international, so it is not like the idea of one country or one locality or one nation or one river. It is UNESCO, so it's a global thing. And some of the key highlights in this concept are that water belongs to the river where it flows and as it flows. Then there are strong connections between land, ecology, and climate, which are still poorly understood. And then go with the flow means water for all. These are some of the contemporary concepts coming up in. This is one example I've shown here, but there's a big list of references that I can actually share with all of you. Now, this is what we call a due diligence matrix of water economy. When we talk about water economy, it is not just irrigation or hydropower or navigation. It's a whole set of things that you can actually bring into creating the economy of a river basin. Irrigation, power generation, navigation, industrial use, municipal use, bottling, again a big industry, tourism, intrinsic value of water, fisheries. This is not the all-inclusive list. The list can go further. But then, what we had been doing in the past, the mistake that we had been doing in the past, we had a very limited cells in our due diligence matrix. What we would do generally, we would see the initial cost of the project and the earnings of the project, and we will project as the initial cost, benefits, break even, and then things are hunky-dory. What we were failing to see or to understand or to analyze were the externalities of our work. Like, for example, what is the consumptive loss? There's something which goes out of the environment, either deep into saline aquifers or evaporates up in the air. Like they constructed Aswan High Dam. Aswan High Dam is very near to the equator in a desert where the sun shines like hell. It loses more water through evaporation, and Egypt would actually receive more water if there is no Aswan High Dam, because they lose a lot of water through evaporation. So things like that. Consumptive pollution is another factor which comes out of this project. Land degradation, loss of ecosystem, loss of aquatic life, eutrophication, delta erosion, disease vectors. All those things, they are externalities. And these are not the externalities again, these are some of the major ones. So when you build a project, you put that life cycle cost, that what are the life cycle gains of the project, those are the economic output of the project, but then those are the externalities. They also have a cost. Every single externality has a cost. But then not every project is producing externalities. There are some things that project is not designed for, but then people start reaping benefits for that particular thing as well. For example, one of the SDGs is food security. When you do an irrigation project for business and stuff, you also complement food security. So that becomes an internality in that project, and that cost of food security is also added to the net gains of it. So here are the total life cycle gains of the project. Here are the externalities which are negative costs. Those are the externalities which are positive costs. And then at the end is the net gain. So when you design a project, the way to go is a group of experts and consultants will pick up each of those headings in each of those columns and write a report. And not just write a report in isolation, but also talking to all the other persons which are involved. And at the end, there would be, for example, if this is our final matrix that we have to analyze, there would be 20 odd reports that would ultimately tell us whether the project is gaining, has some net gains or no. So that's the kind of work which has to go behind each of these elements and you add up all those elements, and then you will find out that whatever you are doing in basin, how good it is that. And then this matrix helps you that if there's something which you thought that irrigation is ultimately, because of all those externalities, is ultimately no net gain, you just eliminate that one. And whatever has the minimum externalities, maximum externalities, internalities, blah blah blah, you can pick that one. And then there is this sustainability governance matrix. Here, the experience that we have had of past about 150 years of some of the very brave works that we have undertaken, that's now a knowledge base to learn a lot of things. And what we have learned is that the governance ranges between free flow and full structural control of a river. And similarly, the society is full adaptation to no adaptation at all. And that would then tell you whether your plan or proposal or project is sustainable or not. And those are the colors which are on that corner are unsustainable projects, and in this corner are sustainable projects. And this green color is when you are sustainable, but after sacrificing something, you become sustainable at a lower level. And if you enter into the yellow zone, then you keep on moving, because then it is a matter of time that you will ultimately end up in that red box. So you have to remain within these green limits. Now this is a qualitative graph, but when you get through those matrices and do all those numbers and all those scientific calculations, that is the time when you actually quantify this qualitative matrix, and you can tell that whether I am sustainable or not. And these things are gaining popularity because this thing, sustainability development goals, after all, where did they come from? Those goals are, all the countries of the world are signatory to it. We are also part of it. Afghanistan is also part of it. After all, this is the global mind behind all those things which are coming today. So, when we manage our water economy, we think of free flow, we think of adaptation, we think of soft governance, then institutional control, and then we get the structural control. That is the last element that we want to come to. And then behind everything, there has to be an economic engine to run your management. Because without economy, everything is going to collapse. Things look very good on sustainability issues, but if there is no pushing economy, the things are not going to work.
What is the difference between soft governance and institutional control?
Okay, that's a good question. Then you can note it down. Soft governance is basically when you do not put a lot of restrictions to the rivers. Like you do the zoning of the river. You plan that, okay, this is an industrial zone, this is a residential zone, this is a recreation zone. Those are the things which are called soft governance. That you make it once and then you just follow it. Institutions are like you make a canal command irrigation system, and then in order to run that system, you have those proper institution which is looking after one particular affair, like your irrigation department or like water. That is institutional. So soft governance is basically land zoning, and those kind of stuff. Now I come to the core of the topic, which is inland navigation, more specific to river navigation of including Kabul River Basin. So the approach that we should be following is that first of all we have to see scientific possibility. Is there enough water? Is there suitable topography? Those are the two things which are, if not there, it is scientifically not possible. So first of all, we have to see scientific possibilities. Then we have to see technical achievability. That can we achieve that scientific possibility through our technology? Do we have the technology? And then even if we have the technology, is that economically viable? because we don't want to spend $100 billion to make 70-kilometer waterway. That's probably too expensive. So economic viability is the next thing. And then after economic viability, we have to see something very critical: culturally acceptable and environmentally sustainable. Now, cultural acceptance is something very interesting. Again, something we have learned from the works which were done before and after Indus Basin Treaty. On the Indian side, which according to our point of view, they gained everything and we lost everything. But even after they gained everything, they lost a lot of things. They built three major reservoirs: Pong, Theme and Bhagra. And obviously there were hundreds of villages and tens of thousands of people which were displaced. But as a consequence of those big reservoirs and diversions, they constructed a very big canal which is called Rajasthan Canal. They allotted lands to the displaced people in Rajasthan. Now imagine a person who is grown up in the mountains, where there are monsoon rains, greenery, flowing rivers, and you send him to desert to go and till the lands. That person cannot survive there. And this is what happened. This Vindana Shava has written a very nice book, Water Wars. Its second version has just come up a few years ago. She has explained the plight of Indian people who moved to the desert in Rajasthan, especially those coming from Himachal Pradesh and Haryana districts. Those stories are really, heartbreaking. So, culturally, you have to see whether they are culturally acceptable or not. And even today, if, like for example, we talk of Kabul River Basin, we know that people from Afghanistan are very good in trade. Half of the transportation, large trucks running in Pakistan are owned by the Afghanis. So they are very good in running those trade businesses. They are very good shopkeepers. They are very good businessmen. But how good they are at agriculture? If you force them to do agriculture like you did, not you did, but like it was done in Rajasthan, if that model is followed, there will be problems. And that is what we have to learn from the past. So cultural acceptability is very important, that whatever system you do to the people, you have to see that whether their culture is adapted to do that or not. Otherwise, you will have problems. Environmental sustainability, you can talk about. Now, I think before going into in further details, I would ask again our transportation expert to talk a little bit about this slide.
So now let's talk about a few statistics that we have taken from the transit and bilateral trade volumes between Pakistan and Afghanistan. First of all, there is about $2 billion worth of trade in terms of bilateral trade, that is imports and exports between Pakistan and Afghanistan, going on every year. About 3 billion worth of transit trade exists between Pakistan and Afghanistan. And under the umbrella of this $3 billion worth of transit trade, about 50,000 odd containers of commercial cargo are unloaded at Karachi port every year, and they are then transported by road up to Afghanistan. If we take an average, on average every 10 minutes, a container from Karachi port is loaded onto a truck and then starts its journey from Karachi towards Afghanistan. So this is the kind of volume the transit trade is having at the moment. It costs about $4,000 to move a single container from Karachi to Pak-Afghan border. This is the amount of cost which is incurred while transporting one single container that is currently moving between Karachi and Afghanistan.
Just to get it right,
this $4,000. This is today. This is in 13-14, the fiscal year of 13-14. This is the recent updated. Yes, this is the most recent cost of shipping the containers between Karachi and Afghanistan. About a 40 feet standard size container, it costs about $4,000 for a single container to move from, and this cost does not include the port and storage fee which is being paid for storing that cargo on the port of Karachi.
ये ज़्यादा नहीं है कुछ.
So this is a real cost.
No, just
Yes, it is. It is.
Indigenation के अगर 4 लाख रुपए एक कंटेनर का खर्चा है कराची से अफगानिस्तान कहाँ तक बॉर्डर तक.
Yes.
इसमें है क्या?
I think it's not up to border. I think it's up to Kabul.
Just my.
It is a mostly up to Jalalabad.
Mostly up to Jalalabad. That is very near to the border.
अच्छा,
4.5 लाख से 4 लाख के दरमियान वो कंटेनर लेके जाता है.
अच्छा.
एक कंटेनर.
Doesn't matter anything. It's a general.
बड़े होते हैं.
It takes between a week to 10 days
Yeah.
on the road.
ठीक है.
बेसिकली इसको आप इस तरह से ना लीजिए जो ये है ना ट्रांसपोर्ट का सिस्टम है वापसी पे उनको शायद खाली आता होगा तो वो सारी वो टोटल कॉस्ट उसमें डाल दें. जैसे हज की बड़ी अच्छी मिसाल है कि बेसिकली वो डबल खर्चा होता है ये करना. यहाँ जाता है खाली वापस आता है फिर लेने जाता है फिर ठीक. तो इस तरह से ना तो वो इस वजह से कॉस्ट ज्यादा है.
About $0.2 billion are spent on this transportation. Out of that, $3 billion of transit trade of Afghanistan, which is about 6% of the total worth of this transit trade. So huge amount is being paid by Afghanistan for transporting containers of its transit trade from Karachi to its border. So what is the potential? So I'll give an average figure that moving this cargo, I'm only talking about this transit trade. If we move that transit trade from Karachi all the way up to Jalalabad or even into Kabul by using inland navigation through Indus and then through the Kabul River all the way into Afghanistan, this cost can be cut down by almost 20 times. So this is the potential of the navigation, potential economic benefit of the and transportation benefit of this system, which we can attain if we have some kind of navigation system established in Indus and Kabul.
I would also add here that the economics of moving cargo on water compared to moving it on rail or road, that has been well established and well studied, and the economics are already there. Like about 125 years ago, they would tow the barges in an artificial canal by horses. There were horse tracks on the side of the canal, and the horse will pull the cargo, because at that time those diesel-powered or petrol-powered boats were probably not there. So what happens? A horse could pull 10 times more the load that it would actually pull on the road. So that's the kind of rolling resistance that the ground offers compared to. Secondly, if you have anybody who had been to Atabad Lake, especially when this tunnel was not made, they would load a truck, fully loaded big truck, on a boat, and then the boat would sail through 23 kilometers of that lake. And if you had seen the propeller of that boat, it was not bigger than this. It was a small propeller, less than 6 inches blades on each side, less than 1 feet diameter of the propeller, and was running on Peter engine, small Peter engine, and it would move the whole cargo on 23 kilometers. So actually, on the motion on water is almost frictionless. And then we have another very good thing coming up. Again, I'm talking of the latest trends and technologies, which we have an opportunity to embark on. It's not that we will do our navigation the way it is being done in Mississippi or in Danube. We would be one step ahead of them, because recently one of the Dutch companies have made an electric barge. They call it Tesla of the barges, or Tesla of inland navigation. It is completely electrical. No noise, no pollution, no oil spills, no oil changes, no smoke. And it's more powerful than a diesel-powered or a petrol-powered engine, and very quiet. So when you plan to establish a system, you from the day one, you say, okay, no petrol engines, no diesel engines, only electric engines. The barges with electric engines will only be allowed. Boats with electric engines only will be allowed. And there will be no problem in people coming with those engines, because no one is already running a diesel engine here who would have to replace it. If they want to do it in Danube or Rhine or in Mississippi, they have to replace the old infrastructure which is built all along those rivers, and all the industry which is actually manufacturing those diesel powered and petrol powered engines. So they have to phase that one out and phase this one in. In your case, you can actually give a huge market to these contemporary manufacturers that, okay, you have problems selling your products in Danube and Rhine, come here and we'll buy all of your products. So that's the kind of business opportunities that we can look at if we plan to go ahead with such a
Dr. Sab, I have a very small question.
Sure.
At this point in time, once we are discussing the inland navigation through the Kabul River, for example, so would it be a viable or a feasible option once there are a number of the hydropower projects on this river, and there are the reservoirs and including the weirs, diversion and tunneling, and would it be possible that we can continue still this inland navigation through this river Kabul?
Okay, one word answer is yes, and we can discuss the details. Okay, so this is something that we discuss, the financial viability of, if we are looking at, we see a lot of financial potential in this project, not just for the trade but for so many other businesses which are actually related to such a project. That is one aspect. But then, before we start exploring and jumping onto those aspects, we have to scientifically see what are the possibilities today. So for that, I would hand over you to our hydroinformatics expert, Mr. Hassan. He would run a little bit of things on this.
We have about 45 minutes, so maybe if we conclude in, let's say, another 30 minutes, and then
Yeah, sure.
15 minutes for any discussion.
As Dr. Hassan has explained, that now we have very bigger knowledge base. This is the one example that we have this Google Earth Explorer. It is free. I think most are familiar with that, and we will explore from this that what is the potential of topography and what kind of slopes we have in our rivers. So it is very simple. So here we have the rivers. As he discussed that we have different navigation systems around the world. So I have put some paths here. We can explore these systems. Let's start with the Grand Canal. Here is the Grand Canal, the red line, and it has slope 1:17,000, 1 meter rise in every in the 17 kilometers. So this is the slope basically of this canal. So you can even explore further this. If you go to the elevation profile, so here is the profile of this canal, and we can move on each and every point, and it gives us the mileage and the elevation and the percent slope. So through this we can explore even each section of this canal. Same if we zoom this out on a high resolution, because high resolution image is available, so we can even see the barges in the river. So once we will move here, Google Earth will automatically move and take to the location where it tells us the data, actual topography of this. So if we zoom it more, we can even see the barge train in the river. So the database is with us. We can explore any inland waterway, and we can see the cities around and discuss on high resolution. So now come to the river Indus. So if we look at the river Indus, we have three different segments, like Indus, Delta to Calabar. We have slope 1 is to 5,700, 1 meter rise in 7.5 kilometer. So it's very mild slope. Then we have Calabar to Attack. This is 1 to 2,600 ratio, and 1 meter rise in every 2.6 kilometers. Same we have Attack Jalalabad. So these are very mild slopes. And in other inland waterways, slopes are even higher than this, and they are doing very good business. So with this small tool, we can explore, and we can have this all high resolution data, and we can see what people are doing, and the same potential we have also in this.
So excuse me. So the slopes here, they seem to be quite sharper than the Mississippi or the other rivers you shown, because you shown that is 1 to 17,000, and here it is even for the last one you shown is 1 to 850. So it means the slope here is too sharp. Yeah.
But if you go to the Erie Canal,
Yes.
you have even sharper.
Oh, yeah, it is sharp. Yeah. So what do you suggest? It should be the other way around. The least.
Actually, the slope has an implication in two things. One, if the slopes are too sharp, then you have to put locking gate system, in which you actually level off the river with the locking gates.
Yeah.
So how many locking gates you need after every, or in every 100 mile, how many gates you need to, so that adds to the cost of the project. And when we talk of locking gates, there are locking gates on Niagara Falls, where within a small distance of a few hundred meters, you rise vertically 100 feet high. So locking gates can do wonders. There are locking gates on Three Gorges Dam. The boats coming in the downstream of the dam can just climb up into the dam. You can have a locking gate system on Bilateral Dam. The ships coming in Indus can actually climb up into the Trabela Lake and go all the way to Mansara. I mean, those possibilities are there. Now, the thing is, how much it costs to make a locking gate. That is one implication of the slope. The second implication is that when the river is flowing and you are going uphill, if the slope is more, the current is more. And if the current is more, you need a more powerful engine to push it. So how powerful your engines are, how big your loads are, and can you push it through that slope? So these slopes of 1:2000 and stuff, those are the ones in which you can easily move against the current with the present engines. and without much turbulence and without much danger. You can move actually very easily in those kind of slopes. So where you don't have those kind of slopes, you either come with the more powerful engines to go uphill or you put the local. So it basically translates into the cost of the project and cost of running the project. Otherwise, it's doable.
But this is theory. In practice, no feasibility or pre-feasibility has been done on Indus.
I don't think so. And a serious effort has been taken into this consideration. But they are doing this project on Indus inland transport.
IWTC, Inland Water Transportation Development Company. Yes.
I think I will touch upon that that model as we go. But maybe you can see this one. Maybe you can just talk about the Afghan infrastructure that we have, and then we move forward. Because you just mentioned about all those dams and stuff. So we have those things here. We just have a look at these things, where they are and how they look on the map.
So now we are proposing a lot of structures on the Kabul River, Polar River. These are the structures we are proposing. Mirkani Dam is in Pakistan, and then we have Shell Dam, then we have Hassan Abbas hydropower plant, and these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 structures on our river. Then we have several irrigation dams on Kabul River. So with these projects, we will have very less water, and the same we will have agriculture development there. So this water is not only for this project. This water is also for Pakistan irrigation system, like Zerfi water, and this water was used. Water is used in Sindh because we have early crops in Sindh. So we have to think everything in an integrated way.
Actually, no, when you talk about those structures, you see that largest tributary, which is Garonne River, there are 5 or 6 major structures on that one. Then there are smaller tributaries, the structures on that, main Kabul, there are structures. These structures have 2 implications. One, that they regulate the flow of river. Maybe you are not getting the water in a river at a time when you want it, because those structures are regulated according to their needs and not your needs. That is one aspect. The second is those structures which are actually diverting the water away from the river. The consumptive use that I mentioned in my matrix. Why consumptive use is considered an externality? Because you are depriving an ecosystem of the water that belongs to that ecosystem or for that river.
Dr. Sir, do you know who are funding actually these dams and infrastructure in Afghanistan? Is it US government, India?
USAID is involved. USAID is involved. And I think some funding is also coming from Indian side, World Bank. But I'm not too clear about USAID. I'm sure they are doing some serious projects.
Actually, I recently started lobbying on this, and I was recently in the British Foreign Office. I met with their minister, and I talked about this that they should use some influence, and if DFID is doing so, they should stop it because it's affecting the population in the lower areas, especially in Peshawar, Saddan, or Soraveli. So they made a commitment with us that yes, we will take up this issue.
Actually, this is kind of the same old Indus Treaty model to some extent, where you start building everything, and then when everything is built, you just want an agreement that the other country agrees that okay, whatever is built.
This is what I recommended and what I suggested them. Until we don't have any consensus-based agreement, we don't have the consensus on the water sharing or benefit sharing, they should stop funding such type of project because it will affect almost 10 million population in these four districts.
That's true.
Okay, you're done? Yeah. So, there are 13 such structures proposed.
Yes.
Where?
In Afghanistan.
And the information that we have is not complete. Okay. Not all of them are reservoirs. Yeah. One doesn't need to be concerned or apprehensive about every structure. And most of them don't even have pre-feasibility. This may well be a wish list. Yeah, right.
But proactively,
Afghanistan may not have resources for them for next decades. Having said that, there are many countries that are very concerned about the poverty level and Pakistan's isolation from not full engagement in the Afghan water planning processes. India has committed $350 million in one such. World Bank, USAID, others may have supported feasibilities or pre-feasibilities, but to my knowledge, they have not committed to any thus far. That is the state of affairs as of now. How things change or what is not in public domain, I wouldn't know, of course.
but we will be interested to know who is funding what and where.
We should also be interested to invest in one dam and help them construct.
Of course, no, this is not.
That is called benefit sharing.
No, this is
If
what
it
we want.
costs us
We
3
want
or 500 million US, and that can give you electricity on a pre-negotiated price, and can give you guaranteed water off-season when you need, and can help you overcome risk of torrential rains and flooding, then it's a very good investment to make upstream.
But once you have an agreement, then if you don't have an agreement with Afghanistan and someone is providing them funding for irrigation purposes because of melting reservoirs,
That's right.
so this will dry up your water, then no repairable piece of the water. So what I say, until there is no agreement between the two countries on the water sharing or benefit sharing, there shouldn't be any funding for such things. Because historically, this water has been used by the Pakistan. We are concerned about their poverty as well. We want to support them,
No, of course.
but we don't want to have a war on water.
No, of course not.
This is one thing that we want to stop it, the war on water.
Maybe we get some questions in the meeting in Almaty. So there is a meeting coming in Almaty on this water transboundary
Okay.
thing. So maybe next time we meet here, we can have some. Because the biggest problem is data.
Yes.
Sometimes this is a wish list. You can see even on the Google, like the names, the projects which you have shown on the Kunal. Are they planned? I think they are planned.
Yeah.
So,
Feasibility is in
proposed
some
since
other.
1980s.
You are right.
You can
But-
see it even when you Google it. They're there.
But
So maybe-
we should be proactive.
Yeah,
We shouldn't wait to be for the reaction. That once they will start the thing, then we will start reacting on that. I think proactive approach is much better than it's the prevention actually.
So there are two things. One is the technical.
Yeah.
So people are technical. The other is political. So the first thing that the technical people should know what they are saying.
Yes.
They should have a very strong faith, and faith needs some data as well.
Yes.
And then the biggest animal is political, because that is in their hand. But how can we feed them good data, good, like you said?
Actually, I wanted to add, sir, you're right. The only point I think I perhaps was trying to make is that we should not oppose all 13 of them. We need to know better which one
It's actually affecting us.
will affect us more than the other, and then engage on those ones. Otherwise, giving the impression that every brick that we move with we are opposed to that will further alienate a plans.
This is very true.
Sorry, we are actually distracting the
That's-
attention. But one thing that is important that we are not technical. Sorry, it's politically I can only be a good lobbyist talking about the issues at different forums. But I cannot. Well, if I have sufficient technical data, then I would be able to convince the people. At least I convince the British government officials in the meeting that they should use their influence to stop funding until we haven't signed any agreement with them. Both are not agreed on the water sharing of beneficial. So I would request the experts that if we are talking here, we are learning from you, and if we can have more information from you, have more knowledge from you, then we can.
But Dr. Saab, your central point I think is very critical. Today, so far, इसे क्या कहते हैं हासिल गुफ्तगू जो the heart of your argument is just the way Indus Water Treaty formalized the construction of infrastructure that was already in the making. Yeah. There's a lot of infrastructure that is on the table, and it may result into a situation where we actually have no option but to rectify that. That's the central argument. And therefore, आपकी बात से उनकी बात मिलती है कि proactively get engaged and see what these are.
Exactly. Because
that's the argument.
Yes, because when we talk of benefit sharing, for example, I have this next idea that this is kind of a way to go. That how the world is actually undertaking such projects. And this is the way to go. That we talk about first of all irrigation. Okay, this is the basin-wide plan that we are making. We say benefit sharing. Okay, good enough. How many irrigation projects we propose in our basin, and then what are the externalities, internalities, and net benefit of that project. And we list our projects. We list the power projects that they are doing. What is the net gain? We do navigation and so on. And then we find out that the last column, which numbers stand bigger than the others. And then when we talk about this, for example, internalities, there is societal unity, societal equity, where the projects are scoring more marks on those things. And then we come up with more marks on those things and more dollars in the last column. That is the kind of combination that when we propose or anybody proposes, benefits both. So that is the kind of analysis which is required on all the proposed projects, put them in a matrix, do the due diligence, and then start negotiating that, okay, this is what we can do, and then these are the things that we can do, we should do. That's how it should go. This is probably, Sheikh Saab has already touched upon it. I was coming to it at the end, but he picked it up earlier than the slide. One of the things that we learned from Indus Basin Treaty is that I think it was again the statement came from Lilianthon. He said that this is not a political or social issue. This is an engineering and an economic issue, and that engineers and economists solve. They did solve. It worked for us for a while, but today we have seen what happened to Katie Butter. That is just one example. Every tail end of the canal is just like Katie Butter. So we have a lot of data. Then both parties were unhappy. This is also in the history books. That both parties were unhappy. Although we considered that they got a lot, or they got almost everything that they wanted. But then they lament that we gave 70% water to Pakistan and got only 30%. So both were unhappy. So if you are signing a treaty in which both parties are unhappy, let's not do the same thing in Kabul River Basin if we are planning to sign a treaty. Come out with a formula where both parties are happy. That is called win-win situation. And I think this inland navigation is one hell of a potential.
This is one of the things that the benefit sharing. That major benefit could go to them because they are spending a huge amount of money on transportation of the goods from Karachi to Afghanistan. If they use this water for this inland navigation, for transportation of their goods, so at least they can save a huge amount on that, and they can spend it on the poverty and poverty alleviation.
And secondly, if you are making a lot of irrigation projects for those people who are not irrigators,
yes,
that will create a problem. But here, the transportation, they are transporters. They would love it. And then transportation sector within Pakistan, its growth is being limited by the lack of infrastructure, because the projection in the transport volume is not compatible with the projection in our capacity to build infrastructure. So there will be congestion and it will put a limit to growth. But then this river navigation it can have like 20 times more. He has recently written a thesis on Indus navigation as well. Yeah. So, would you please?
Yes. In terms of if you talk about carrying capacity of the cargo, how much it can carry, it can one single barge, it can replace about 144 trucks on the road. One barge can carry so much cargo that it can replace almost 144
How
barges.
much fuel you are saving? How much other labor?
How much fuel you are saving? How much congestion you are eliminating?
How much environmental?
And
benefits
then,
you are getting?
and then if you are starting the project with electric engines,
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
that adds to the
you have
benefits.
solar power stations charging. Now, you know that Dutch company which has made this electric barge, they have made a huge battery, which is about the size of a container, and it is simply loaded and unloaded at the port in the barge, and that can, I think, for a 40 barge carrier, for 40 container carrier barge, that battery can last for 36 hours. So more than so every port of call they just replace that container which is a battery, and you can have an infrastructure of solar panels which is just charging those batteries, and barges are coming, and then how green you can become. You can actually become the leaders of the world and tell the world that okay, this is how the navigation is done in the rivers. So there are so many potential opportunities.
So how these stakeholders like the containers taking away and the road builders, how fight with them?
I think we don't have to fight with them, because when we are talking about growing businesses, if you are running 20 trucks, you are the one who has the money to buy the first flotilla, first barge. And that is where now your business is expanding, because this road business is not going to stop. Despite all that navigation in Mississippi River, you travel on their highways and every 10 minutes you pass by a big truck which is carrying a container.
Still, you will need transportation from the riverside to a particular terminal to the city's towns.
So opportunities of growth, so attract those transporting companies. They have the experience to do it, because a person who is an irrigator will not be a successful business person in that environment, but a person who is already running this great business would be a success story. So I think I have talked about most of these things, and then there are some writings like this is from the book The Future by Al Gore. I think that line is second last line. Nature wrecking money-eating monsters. This is what they term as large dams and diversions today. I mean, this is about the changing global mind, because something right yesterday is considered absolutely wrong today. For example, slavery is one example. Having a slave was a status symbol. Today, it's a matter of shame. Once building these worlds was like conquering nature and going brave and making progress. Today, some writers are using these words, nature wrecking money-eating monsters. So, I mean, these words are coming, there's a reason for it.
Dr. What is 1998 floods in India, Satluj and Beas? What does that mean?
Okay, those floods were in Satluj and Beas, and Pakistan also made hue and cry that India did not give us enough warning. But the fact is that even Indian villagers did not get any warning for those floods. It came at the end of monsoon season, big storms, reservoirs are already full, and they opened the gates. Kind of similar story that happened to us in 1992 with respect to Bangladesh. It was kind of the same story. And people were so outraged. I mean, we were saying that they did not tell us, they even did not tell to their own people that they are going to do this. People were so outraged that, like we have Bhavda here, they have an organization which is looking after Vyas, Ravi and Satluj. And their commissioner, I don't recall his name, he was shot dead outside his house because of this havoc they created, and there were so many lives lost. So this is outcome of those projects which they happily did by diverting these rivers. So I mean, it's not that the things were all hunky-dory in that part of the world after getting all that water. They faced problems and they are still facing problems. Their problem with Rajasthan Canal, there's huge volumes.
मैंने इसलिए भी पूछा था, at the risk of digression a little bit, but this is important. 2-4 साल पहले जम्मू में जो torrential rains हुए, cloud outburst था, Sialkot got inundated. उससे अगले साल काबुल रिवर में ये हुआ नौशहरा के साथ फ्लडिंग हुई. तो एक क्लाइमेट चेंज के साथ जो एक रिस्क बढ़ रहा है फ्लडिंग का वो ज़्यादा बढ़ता जा रहा है. Presently, we have commissioned a study that is looking at projection in Kabul River because of snow melt and all that heat waves next 100 years. और जो चीज़ें नज़र आ रही हैं वो ये है कि फ्लडिंग की फ्रीक्वेंसी बहुत बढ़ती जाएगी unless some infrastructure is constructed or early warning systems are put in place. And people who live in downstream in waterways, they are scared. जैसे कि वहाँ पे उनको regularize करने की कोशिश की. So it's a very complex and important issue emerging. A lot of damage to the economy.
This is a very serious issue you have talked about, and really flooding is increasing, especially the flood peaks are getting bigger. Maybe their frequency is not getting as higher. If you see 3 or 4 rivers all at once, then maybe you find, but the flood peaks. Now, one of the things that again these infrastructures, the built infrastructure have done is they have actually increased the flood peaks of large events.
आपका आर्गुमेंट ये है कि इनलैंड अगर नेविगेशन होती है तो उसके साथ फ्लड्स भी जो है मैनेज होते हैं.
सर फ्लड्स मैनेज होते हैं उसके साथ. उसमें होता ये है कि इनलैंड नेविगेशन के दरिया को खोल देते हैं. You remove the levees and you restore your flood plains. And the flood plains have the capacity to absorb water when a big wave comes in. Now, by confining those rivers within their banks, otherwise it would spread out and absorb. Now it did not spread out and it moved forward with more efficiency, and downstream it will cause more flooding, which otherwise it would not. So those are the kind of things that you have to, that is why they call it free flow, because they have found so many advantages of free flow, restoring rivers back to their natural boundaries. Now it's not easy to do, but then they have done some innovative things. Like, for example, this is one important infrastructure sitting in a floodplain, and this is another one, and this is another one. One way is put a levee all along the river and protect it. Then the whole river is confined. What they do now, for example, in Australia, they put a levee around it. That when it floods, it goes, the structure is safe, and a few days later, the structure goes down. And in between, when it is surrounded, you do the risk management. You have a plan that when it is surrounded, what would you do? So those are the kind of soft and semi-soft management techniques which are now they are now implementing in order to combat those floods. But then there are huge advantages after a flood.
So there is another issue. Once we have this damming, then we have actually there is no water in the river. River has active floodplain zone, abandoned floodplain zone. So what happened? People came into first abandoned floodplain zone, then they came into the active floodplain zone, and water has to go. So people they came into the active floodplain zone, and then they are crying because they established their agriculture and everything. So we should respect the rivers. We should respect the boundaries. Where is the active floodplain zone? Where is the abandoned floodplain zone? Then we can plan things. If you will come into the active floodplain zone, the water will come.
Dr. Sir, there is another small question. What effect or impact it have on the biodiversity of regions and then land navigation system?
Okay, again, in due diligence, we talk about biodiversity and stuff. Inland navigation is one way of letting the river flow and make money out of it. And when the river is flowing, obviously, you have water to restore your wetlands, you have water to restore your lost ecology, you can introduce species, you can, and the existing species would recover. You will have more wetlands around your rivers, your riparian zones will have more vegetation and stuff. So it's kind of very synergistic with the environment because now you are reverting to a flowing river.
अच्छा क्या डैम्स के साथ ये पॉसिबल है अगर कैस्केड ऑफ डैम्स हो मतलब ज्यादा डैम्स बने जिस तरह आपको पता है कोलोराडो पे 300% वो ज्यादा स्टोरेज कर रहे हैं ठीक है उसके साथ हर आप जाएं अगर उसके साथ आप जाएं तो हर 5 किलोमीटर बाद उन्होंने रिजर्वायर बनाई हर 10 किलोमीटर बाद और कैस्केड पूरा रिवर कोर्स ने वो बना, तो उसके साथ ये पॉसिबल है ताकि डैम वालों को हम खफा न करें।
In our case, I don't think so. मतलब इसका डिटेल एनालिसिस किया जा सकता है, but this is my gut feeling. It is not possible. Let's look at a few numbers here. आपका जो monsoon का average flow है in Indus, that is about 135 billion cubic meters. Annual flow आपका 180 billion cubic meters है, लेकिन सिर्फ monsoon में तकरीबन 135 billion cubic meters पानी आपके रिवर में से गुजरता है। आप डैम बनाने की बात करते हैं, आपका जो तरबेला डैम है उसकी कैपेसिटी 12 बिलियन क्यूबिक मीटर, मंगला की अभी रेजिंग ऑफ वॉल्स के बाद तकरीबन 12 हो गई। अगर आप कालाबाग जिसकी बहुत ज्यादा बात होती है, आप वो बना लेते हैं तो उसकी 7 बिलियन क्यूबिक मीटर, बट यू आर डीलिंग विद 135 एंड दैट इज द एवरेज। व्हेन इट इज फ्लडिंग मे बी 200 इज पासिंग।
What about the watershed management program?
That is how we should go. One of the impediments in thinking about a whole integrated river navigation system all along Indus, all the way to Kabul and all the way, actually आप ये रावी शावी जो ये रॉफ को भी connect कर सकते हैं, because you have the waterways, just the water is too little in the water. The problem is the world is reverting to basin management. They are now reconfirming their political and administrative boundary to the watersheds. This is what they are doing in Australia. They are making catchment management authorities. Like in USA and Australia, if you see the maps, their states are north-south straight lines without any respect for the geographical or natural boundaries. But now Australians, they realized it, that natural boundaries, if your administrative boundaries and natural boundaries, they are the same, you have less problems. So they made catchment management authorities, and catchment management authority is ultimately going to be their ultimate authority in a catchment. Because if the top authority is looking at all the catchment, they can coordinate the activities. But if the same catchment is divided into different political jurisdiction, you are upstream, you are downstream, and then there are problems. So what we did it in reverse. We had a system of federally managed Indus Basin. We split it into 4 provinces. We did exactly the other way around. The world is going this way and we decided to go do a nose dive. No, I'm not against 18th Amendment or provincial autonomy, but then you give the autonomy where autonomy works better. You don't give autonomy where autonomy does not work better. And this is exactly the case in point. So, yes, your point is very valid.
Also very reluctantly, I don't feel
Yes, this is my last slide.
interrupting you there, so.
No,
Acha, chalo, wonderful. Thank you very much.
you are already
very much.
The last slide.
Very thought-provoking, very diverse, very interesting. So we have gone through a lot of questions, already. So there are any more? So please.
सर मैं जाऊंगा तो मैं अपना सवाल ले तो एक दो सवाल, क्योंकि मेरी गाड़ी आ रही है 5 महीने।
सवाल पूछ के चले, जवाब नहीं सुनना।
नहीं जवाब ये जो हमारा सिस्टम है, इसमें एक अजीब सी सिचुएशन है पाकिस्तान में कि हमारा जितना भी फ्लो आ रहा है वो 2 महीनों में, 2-3 बल्कि 70 दिन में आ रहा है, बाकी 80 दिन में, बाकी 20% पूरे साल में। एक तो ये वेरिएबिलिटी है जो सीजनल है। दूसरा जो इशू है वो हमारे पास स्टोरेज नहीं है, क्योंकि सिर्फ 9% या 8% हम स्टोर करते हैं, तो इसलिए जितने भी बैराज सिस्टम में हम पानी को दरियाओं से ले जाकर खेतों में सैलाब देते हैं, और यकीन करें कि हम 100 या कितना मिलियन एकड़ फीट पानी साल को इस्तेमाल करते हैं, और हमारा जो एक्सपोर्ट या जो इनकम है वो नीदरलैंड या इजराइल जो क्रॉप्स पे करते हैं उसके कई गुना कम है। तो प्रोडक्टिविटी तो हमारा उस लेवल में, तो ये जो आप जो है बड़ा इंफॉर्मेटिव है, और मेरे ख्याल में काफी हद तक ये है इंटरेस्टिंग है। तो इसमें ये जो हम डाइवर्ट करते हैं बैराज से, इसका आप किस तरह देखते हैं, इसको किस तरह हम मतलब जो इरिगेटर्स है जो आपने बताया ट्रक्स वगैरह से ज्यादा पॉलिटिशियंस और इरिगेटर जो है वो बहुत बड़ा एक मोनोपोली होगा कि आप हमारे पानी को
काबुल के बिल्कुल जो रिवर बह रहा है हमारा काबुल और इंडस मिल रहे हैं, उसके इर्द हमने ये भी देखा है कि जो लोग जमींदार हैं वो कहते हैं पानी तो जा रहा है लेकिन हमारे पास नहीं है पानी, सो वी डोंट हैव वाटर। तो ड्रिप इरिगेशन या डॉक्टर में पहले भी अपनी काम बताया सो मैनी वेज।
सर असल में बात ये कि जब ये जिस ड्यू डिलिजेंस मैट्रिक्स की बात करता हूँ ना, दिस गाइड्स यू ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रायोरिटीज। ये बड़ा मतलब ये पावरफुल टूल है। अभी मतलब मैं उसकी वाटर इकोनॉमी की जब आप बात करता हूँ, वेरी पावरफुल टूल। इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रायोरिटी इज वन बज़वर्ड which is very deep meaning. आप डैम बनाने की बात करते हैं कि जी मैं डैम बनाऊंगा। व्हाट इज दैट? दैट इज डिमांड मैनेजमेंट, सॉरी सप्लाई मैनेजमेंट। क्योंकि मैं डैम खड़ा करूंगा और फिर मैं पानी सप्लाई करूंगा और मैं कहता हूँ कि मैं इतने मिलियन क्यूबिक या इतने मिलियन एकड़ फुट में पानी सप्लाई करूंगा बनाने के बाद। लेकिन जब उसको आप सप्लाई कर रहे हैं, उसकी डिमांड किस चीज के ऊपर बेस्ड है? उसकी डिमांड बेस्ड है फ्लड इरिगेशन पे, जिसमें वो फसल को 18 दफा पानी लगाता है सीजन में एंड एवरी टाइम ही वांट्स 4 इंचेस ऑफ वाटर स्टैंडिंग ऑन हिज फीट। अगर आप उधर से सप्लाई मैनेजमेंट को रोक के उसको कि यार अपनी डिमांड तो पहले ठीक करो, और उसको डिमांड ठीक करने के लिए आप उसको वो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बना के दो। आप डैम के लिए तो तैयार हो ना, आप कहते हैं मैं $10 बिलियन का एक और डैम खड़ा कर दूंगा। लेकिन अगर आप वो $10 बिलियन अपने 2 कैनाल कमांड्स के ऊपर लगाते हो, तो यू विल फाइंड आउट कि 2 कैनाल कमांड में से 4 तवेरा डैम जितना पानी बचता है, इफ दे जस्ट गेट एफिशिएंट, और प्रोडक्टिविटी भी बढ़ जाएगी, आपकी लोगों की सेहत भी बेहतर होगी। ये डिजीज वेक्टर्स का मैंने जिक्र किया हुआ है। व्हाट इज अ डिजीज वेक्टर? मच्छर, मक्खी, मकोड़ा, ये सारी डिजीज को कैरी करते हैं ना। आप फ्लड इरिगेशन करते हैं, अब उसकी एक्सटर्नलिटीज पे जाएं। आपने फ्लड इरिगेशन कर दी, खाले में पानी खड़ा रह गया और अगला पानी जो है 7 दिन के बाद आएगा। 7 दिन तक वो पानी स्टेगनेंट वाटर वहां पे खड़ा है, कुछ एवेपोरेट हो जाएगा, कुछ सीप कर जाएगा, कुछ अगले 3-4 दिन खड़ा रहेगा, इनफ फॉर डेंगू टू ब्रीड।
ठीक है, तो आप ये समझ रहे कि हमें फिर इन इरिगेशन से हमें पानी वापस लेना होगा अगर हम नेविगेशन करना चाहते हैं, क्योंकि आपको पानी तो रिवर में चाहिए। अगर आप सारा 70 to 80% तो हम सबसे ज्यादा मेरे ख्याल में डाइवर्जन रेशो है पाकिस्तान का। तो आपका जो सजेशन है यही कि हमने इरिगेशन को एफिशिएंट करके वहां से पानी वापस लेकर अपने जिस तरह ऑस्ट्रेलिया कर रहे हैं उसमें डालकर फिर नेविगेशन पॉसिबल हो।
सर नेविगेशन तो अभी भी पॉसिबल है। अच्छा, ईरी कैनाल कितनी सी थी? ईरी कैनाल 40 फुट वाइड और 4 फुट डीप थी, एंड यू डोंट हैव टू हैव फ्लोइंग वाटर इन दैट। यू कैन मेक स्टिल कैनाल्स। इवन जो आपका ड्राइस्ट टाइम ऑफ द ईयर है उसमें भी स्टिल कैनाल जितना पानी का आपके दरिया से निकल ही आता है। तो अगर आप स्टिल कैनाल्स के साथ ऐसे रीचेस जिसके बीच में पानी कम हुआ है या जो सीजन में कम है पानी, उसमें आपका जो है वो बारिश तो स्टिल कैनाल में भी चल जाए, तो उसके लिए आपको पानी बहुत ज्यादा नहीं चाहिए।
ठीक है, मैनेज कर सकते हैं, मैनेज कर सकते हैं इस बैराज के होते हुए भी।
डॉक्टर साहब के क्वेश्चन के मतलब ये एक्चुअली ये जो आप इरिगेशन से पानी निकाल रहे हैं और जिस तरह आप कहते हैं, तो इसके लिए आपको इरिगेशन पैटर्न को थोड़ा चेंज करना पड़ेगा, और ये बिहेवियर चेंज एजुकेशन के बगैर नहीं होगा। हम क्योंकि हम कम्युनिटी के साथ ज्यादा डीलिंग कर रहे हैं और हमारे ग्रास रूट्स के साथ ज्यादा होते हैं, बिहेवियर चेंज इज मस्ट फॉर दिस। और जो आपने उनको ये सिनेरियो बताने, जो वर्स्ट सिनेरियो आगे हमने फेस करनी होगी, अगर अभी नहीं तो 20, 30, 40, 50 साल बाद, जो हमारे आइंदा नस्लों के लिए हम क्या कर रहे हैं। तो जो आपकी बात बिल्कुल सही है कि इसमें जब तक हम बिहेवियर चेंज पे काम नहीं करेंगे, फार्मर्स को एजुकेट एफिशिएंट यूज पे उसको भी नहीं कि किस तरह ज्यादा एफिशिएंट यूज हम कर सकते हैं और किस तरह उसका बेटर रिजल्ट भी निकाल सकते हैं। जिस तरह डॉक्टर साहब ने इजराइल का कह दिया, या दूसरा मैंने रिसेंटली मॉन्ट्रियल में मीटिंग में थे, तो उधर से इजराइल से बंदे आए थे और उन्होंने जो हाउस में जो वेस्ट वाटर है ना, जो वॉशरूम जो इसको मतलब प्रॉपर एक प्रोसेस से गुजार के छोटा सा एक जिसपे हार्डली $1,000 खर्च आता है और आपका पता नहीं 15 साल या 20 साल तक वो चलते हैं। उससे वो वर्ड जो बाथरूम के पानी है उसको साफ करके उससे किचन गार्डनिंग करते हैं।
तो ये सारी टेक्नोलॉजी एग्जिस्ट करती है। इजराइल इज गुड मैनेजमेंट ऑफ गुड मॉडल फॉर माइक्रो मैनेजमेंट ऑफ वाटर। इनकी बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग हिस्ट्री इजराइल वालों की भी, कैसे इन्होंने अपना बनाया था। ड्रिप इरिगेशन भी इन्होंने इजाद किया था। जो मैं अपने सिनेरियो में चीज़ देखता हूँ वो ये है कि मे बी not everybody would agree with me, but this is my own viewpoint, that everything is ultimately driven by economy. If money is coming in and money is coming in your pocket, whatever you are doing, you will keep doing it. If money starts going away, you will change your behavior.
लेकिन मेरे जो वो है ना यही है ना कि हम ग्रास रूट्स पे, क्योंकि जब तक आप बिहेवियर चेंज नहीं करेंगे, आप इसको अगर गवर्नमेंट लाख दफा ये सारा वो करे तो वो नहीं करे। जब तक वो एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेंगे चेंज को और चेंज के लिए आगे वो नहीं होंगे और डिमांड भी फिर उन्हीं से आएगा कि नहीं हमें इस तरह चाहिए, फिर आपको वही करना पड़ेगा।
सर ये जब मोबाइल फोन आया है तो किसी ने नहीं कहा कि आप मोबाइल खरीदें, आपने टेक्नोलॉजी दी, लोगों ने अडॉप्ट की, उसके बाद लेजिस्लेशन बन रही है, उसके बाद सब कुछ हो रहा है। तो अगर आप कुछ चीज देंगे फार्मर को तो वो अडॉप्ट करेगा जब उसको कुछ में प्रॉफिट होगा।
सर जिस चीज में फायदा होता है वो लोग उठा रहे हैं।
The private sector inland navigation company that government of Pakistan, government of Punjab has set up. What's they doing? Have they undertaken any pre-feasibility or feasibility in this regard? That's one. Two, related question. If they are not doing, do you know any other university, donor, international technical agency, or any government department who is considering of looking at inland navigation as a serious option, even for part of Indus?
Okay, sir. I have two things about it. First of all, this Indus Inland Transportation Company, their design is, I see a major flaw in their design. The biggest client of inland navigation is sea. If you exclude sea from your clientage, then your project is never going to be feasible. It's not going to take off. Now again, the problem with 18th Amendment, they can do it in Punjab, but they cannot extend it in Sindh, because Sindh has a different government. Well, if Sindh agrees and it gets a connection to the sea, then it will. Now, second, who is looking at it? Maybe Sharia, you can add to this one.
There is no other organization till date right now. There were some feasibility studies carried out by China quite a few years back. I don't exactly remember the years, in which years it was carried. This inland, it is abbreviated as IWTCD, Inland Waterway Transportation Development Company, the one which you are talking about. It's a public-private partnership of Punjab government, and they have completed a survey of the Indus with the help of Pakistan Navy, and they have posted it on their website along with their mission and objective, that it is possible to develop a navigation system on Indus. And they are currently constructing a 400-kilometer stretch from Attak to Daud Khel as a pilot project in order to demonstrate that inland waterway can become a success in this part of the world.
Punjab?
Yes.
Company
IWTCD, Inland Waterway Transportation Development Company. If you write it, search it on Google, it would be the first or second link on it. Yes. In the Westridge, its office is in Westridge.
तो ये किसी केनाल को यूज कर रहे हैं?
No, they are using the mainland distributary.
हमारे तो केनाल्स भी इतने बड़े बाहर मुल्कों के रिवर से हमारे केनाल बड़े-बड़े।
अटक और दाऊद खेल वाला जो पैच है, वो आप गूगल मैप पे दिखा सकते हैं?
जी।
आपकी बात सही है। एम्स्टर्डम में एक
Sir, one problem with this patch is that it is not connecting some business centers or one business center with another port city. So to demonstrate some viability, you need to connect two points which can generate transport between them.
So I think they have selected only because it runs all in a gorge. So it's
yes. They have just adopted it for their own ease, but in order to demonstrate its success, another example of this is the Qaeda Power solar power plant, which was constructed by the government of Pakistan.
That's not whether different word, but I think if it were to be a viable, it might become a catalyst for economic development in the surrounding areas as well.
It would.
Presently, it would not.
Sir, I think that it will have difficulties. It will have difficulties reaching to that status. It might have difficulty in reaching to that status in a shorter time, because the points that they are connecting are not big business centers. And it would demonstrate a better model. Best model could be if you just establish an inland port at Kotri, connected through a steel canal running through your delta with the sea. Steel canal will not require any additional water. Just a little bit of water and that canal is good enough to connect to Kotri. So that would become a very good model for it. Because if there is an inland port at Kotri and the ships go, there is a very important factor that when ships are connected to inland navigation in the open sea. Now this ship is coming with only 2 containers from Pakistan. It will never come like that, because waiting at the port, then docking at the port, then paying the port fees, downloading 2 containers and then going back is not economical. But if it can just halt in the open sea, anchor in the open sea, a barge comes, takes 2 containers, move in, that is how your trade volume will multiply many times. So you have to have open sea as your first client on an inland port. Otherwise, you will have problem in taking.
Again, sir, it all depends on certain other factors as well. We are actually running such canal in Korea, where we connected Seoul to Incheon, there, and we are losing money, big time. But the thing is that the government wanted this canal, this Nodana, wanted to be connected. They wanted the same thing. You know, these barges, the whole thing trade coming directly to near Seoul and all that. It never happened. I mean, there is obviously some but we are in operational loss as well. I mean, not to talk about recouping our investment costs. So essentially, this whole I mean, this same thing applies to any business. Whether in Pakistan, do we really have that kind of demand for such activity? One, does it really add that value in terms of reduced costs, monies, and everything for time that this will make sense for a businessman to really use that? So it's a whole lot complicated.
This is a very interesting thing that you have just brought up. Sir, can you go to the map of Korea? I showed you something very interesting about the map of Korea. Can you go to Korea? If you see, Korea is a peninsula. Both sides is sea, and there is very little land transportation which is involved if you move from sea to the midland and then again. So the road network that you need in order to connect to the sea is very small. In case of Indus and in case of Kabul, I mean, the cost is huge. बात शुरू में कर रहे थे वो $4,500 पे कंटेनर मूव करता है. जब उसका वो 40,000 में मूव होगा ना 4 लाख की जगह, तो उसको बहुत अच्छा लगेगा. वो कभी भी बिजनेस यूज नहीं करेगा. So there is much more value of making an inland port all the way in Kabul, a landlocked country, than a country which is a peninsula surrounded by water all over. तो वो चीज जो है ना वो थोड़ा सा काउंट करता है. ये देखिए ना, look at this one. अब आप सोल की बात कर रहे हैं. This is soul, this is sea. कितना उसको एडवांटेज दिया है पाकिस्तान पे है. अभी इसमें आप ये देखिए. Now the scale of the map has not changed. जितना सा आपको कोरिया नजर आ रहा था, कोरिया तकरीबन इतना सा नजर आ रहा था. उसमें अगर आपने इतने से रास्ते के लिए किनार बनानी है, तो it might not be that advantageous. But if you get up to this point, it is more advantageous. And if you go all the way to that point, it's phenomenally more advantageous.
Scale will make difference.
Scale will make a huge difference. और फिर पता है इसमें एक और चीज भी है बहुत important कि Kabul will not be benefiting just for its own self. It will open up its facilities to all the Central Asian states, and they get a port at Kabul.
So thank you very much. So I think we need to conclude here. Thank you very much. Very thought-provoking, very interesting, and thank you to all the participants here. I think today we had quite a larger number of people coming here. So thank you very much.
Please join us
For a cup of tea, please.
Thank you.
Very nice.